Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, folks, we're going to go over a lot today. Most likely playoff contenders for the 2024 12-team playoff. We're going to get into that. We're also going to talk about March Madness and the Sweet 16 update. We got big games tonight and big games tomorrow. But first, I want to talk about the 2024 playoff and the teams that I think have the best likelihood of being in that playoff. But first, I'm going to need a little bit of help. Peyton, Carl, get us off to a good start.
Omaha! Huh?
Thanks, guys. All right, now this is an article on CBS Sports by Will Backus, and it's a pretty darn good article. It goes over the top 16 teams that they believe will get into the playoff. I disagree with some of them, but this is a good article. It's got a lot of good reasoning behind it, and we're going to go down their list, and then I'm going to adjust it as we go. But some of these are just so obvious, it's pretty easy. They start out with Georgia. I don't think there's much question. They've got the top opportunity to get into the playoff. They've lost like one or two games in the last umpteen years. They've won 2 national titles. Last year, they might have been the best team in the country, but they got beat by Alabama in overtime in a great game. And then, of course, because we only get 4 teams in the playoff last year, they didn't get in. I would have loved to have seen them play Michigan, but so be it. I like their chances going into this year, especially with Carson Beck and that defense and Kirby. If he can just keep them out of those fast cars, they got a good shot at this thing. Secondly, you got Ohio State and Ryan Day, and this team is loaded for bear. Ohio State has got it everywhere you need it. They brought in a good quarterback, a dual threat guy. Their defense is completely loaded. They've got 2 top 10 edge rushers. They're loaded in the backfield. I mean, just too much talent, really. And if Ryan Day doesn't make the playoff at the very least, I'll be shocked. And they'll be backing up a Mayflower to that guy's house. You can count on it. And he must beat Michigan. And he should be able to. Jim Harbaugh is gone now.
It's got to be America's team.
And I don't know if they're America's team anymore, but I think they're going to have a pullback. And if he doesn't beat them this year, I don't know. Like I said, if for some reason they don't beat Michigan, they had better make the playoff and make a heck of a run, because this is his year. There are no excuses left. So these first 2 choices are pretty obvious. Third one, now he's picked Utah, and I understand why, because the Big 12 is not that strong, and Utah is a good quality team with a good defense. They're getting back their quarterback after a knee injury. I could see Utah winning their conference and getting in without too much trouble. Now, they'll have some competition, but I don't have Utah as third. But, you know, somebody's got to win the Big 12, and Utah probably will and get the automatic bid. Clemson. Clemson had a terrible year last year, which for them was 8-4. And I don't really understand it other than they fumbled the ball worse than any team I've ever seen. That Duke game, it looked like a movie. Every time they got within the 5-yard line, they would just hand the ball over. So if they can hold on to the ball, and if Klubnik will start living up to the 5-star ranking that he got out of high school, they should at least win 10, 11 games without too much trouble. Now, they do have the one problem, and that's that Dabo refuses to use the transfer portal, and that's one of the reasons they've had a pullback. But the ACC is not that strong. You've got 2 or 3 good teams in there, Clemson obviously being one of them, and they've got a lot to prove. So I like Clemson's chances to win the ACC. Now, Florida State's going to have a lot to say about that, but we'll talk about that as well. Now, here is a very controversial one, Liberty. Look, somebody's got to win in the group of 5. The highest-ranked conference group of 5 will get in. Got a little socialism going on here. So Liberty will probably be the one, and this is going to tick off some teams that probably very much deserve being in the playoff. It could be a Missouri, a Tennessee, an Ole Miss, somebody like that, and they're going to be furious. That's one of the reasons why we're going to be moving to a 16-team playoff once we flirt around with this 14-team stuff. But if we're going to have socialism in college football and grant a group of 5 team, we're going to have to go to 16. Otherwise, there's always going to be a team that's well-deserved that's going to get creaked, and there's going to be 2 or 3 that feel creaked, and probably rightfully so, and they're going to point to a Liberty. So anyway, they're on the list. Oregon, I definitely could see the Oregon Ducks having a good year. Now, granted, this is their first year in the Big Ten, so that'll be a little different, but they've got a very good quarterback in Dylan Gabriel. And Oregon spends the money, and they're loaded, got a great coach. I like Oregon to make the playoff. Notre Dame. This is a team that really, they can take advantage of the fact they got a lot of games in the ACC. They're going to be favored in most of the games that they play in. Riley Leonard is quarterback. I think they're going to be fine. Notre Dame should make the 12-team playoff as an independent. They don't have a choice at the automatic qualifier, but they'll finish in the top 12, I would think. If they don't, it'll be a real disappointment in Notre Dame land. I can promise you that. Next team he's got on here is Texas. I'm going to have to agree with that. Quinn Ewers is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Texas is completely loaded. They picked up Isaiah Bond from Alabama. Sarkisian's a very good offensive-minded coach. I like Texas to make the playoff. Their first year in the SEC, though, it could be a bit of a shock to their system. They're not used to playing this level of talent, so they could trip up and not make it. But I do have them on my list as well. All right, now here's one that's a little controversial, and that's Ole Miss. Say what you want about Lane Kiffin, backstabber, job jumper, all that kind of stuff.
How dare you!
He's a good offensive-minded coach, very good. He's wearing out the transfer portal. He's the portal king. He went and picked up a bunch of really good players. He's got an excellent quarterback in Dart. I fully expect them to play well. Their schedule's not that tough. I've looked at it. It's not difficult. They could easily slip into the 12-team playoff. They also could be a team that gets totally creaked by Liberty. So we'll keep an eye on them, but I like Ole Miss's chances. Penn State, the team that always seems to lose to Ohio State and Michigan. This could be their year to make the 12-team playoff because it's brand new, number one, and they'll probably beat Michigan this year. I think Michigan's going to have a significant pullback. They don't have their quarterback, their running back. They've lost their head coach and their defense coordinator. So I think this is Penn State's year to do something. Now, doing something means if they make the playoff, they've had a good year, and they've got a real shot at that. I could see them making it. Now, Alabama. This is a very interesting one. Kalen DeBoer. We've talked about that. I don't know that Milroe will be their quarterback come the end of the year. He's not really the right quarterback for that system, but you never know. He did bring in his own quarterback from Washington, so it should be pretty eventful this year in Alabama land. They'll probably make the 12-team playoff. It's Alabama, but this could be a very difficult year. They've lost quite a few really good players. You can thank FSU for part of that. FSU pretty much pulled up a U-Haul as soon as Nick Saban retired.
Merry Christmas! Dinner was full!
And so did Texas. All right, Missouri. This is a heck of a pick. I don't think Missouri's going to make it. I just don't. I just think Eli Drinkwitz had a great year last year. He's got a terrific quarterback, and he's coming back, and that's Brady Cook. He's an excellent dual-threat guy. He's smart. He's elusive. They could make it. They've also got that terrific wide receiver, Luther Burden. He's excellent. He's going to play on Sundays. They don't have that terrific running back they had last year, but this is a team that's got a shot at making it. I think they'll pull back and probably go 9-3 this year, but it wouldn't be impossible at all for them to make it. Or they could get creaked by Liberty. We'll see. This guy's got Michigan in here. I don't see it. I think Michigan's going to have a pullback this year. They've just lost too much, in my opinion, and I think they're going to struggle without having their typical leadership that they've had there. We'll see how it plays out, but I'm not liking Michigan being on this list. I think they're going to have a pullback, and they're going to go like 9-3. They're not going to be bad. Let's not get it twisted. But I think they're going to have some hiccups. Losing their defensive coordinator is also something not a lot of people are talking about. That'll have an impact. Now, here's one. Arizona's been coming on strong, and they're in the Big 12. They could win the Big 12, or they could finish second and actually get in and stay in the top 12 as far as ranking. They also could be a team that gets creaked by Liberty. So we'll keep an eye on Arizona. That's a decent pick, honestly. Then he's got Oklahoma State. I don't think so. It's I just don't. I don't think State's going to make it, but I can see why he's got them on the list. Then Oklahoma. Oklahoma's first year in the SEC. I think they're in for a rude awakening. We do play them. My team, Tennessee, does. And now it's at Oklahoma. That's a very important game for both teams. We'll see how that plays out, but I don't know about Oklahoma. They could make it, of course, but I don't have them on my list. Now, one team they don't have listed on here is Florida State with Mike Norvell. Now, of course, they've got a new quarterback coming in, the ukulele guy from Oregon State, who originally was with Clemson. That is my only concern with Florida State. They were very active in the transfer portal, and I think they got some nice pieces, especially out of Alabama and several other players as well. So Florida State is a team that could definitely wind up in the 12-team playoff. He doesn't have that team listed, but that's one that I would definitely keep my eye on. And they've got blood in their eyes over what happened to them last year when they got totally creaked by the college football playoff, going 13-0.
Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
So look for Florida State to be a major factor in the 12-team playoff. Whether they make it or not, we'll see. It's going to be up to their quarterback play. But I think everywhere else they'll be solid because they know how to fill holes down there. Now, Tennessee is definitely a team that I think could make the 12-team playoff. They have a pretty tough schedule, but they also have some easy games. They're out-of-conference games. They'll be 4-0. I would fully expect them to do that. And then they've also got Mississippi State. They should be able to handle them. Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Florida at Neyland. So I like most of their games. They do have to play Georgia and Alabama. Alabama's got to come to Neyland and with a brand new coach. I like our chances against Alabama. I think it's 50-50, which those are good odds against an Alabama team. Georgia is going to be almost impossible to beat them there. That's going to be very difficult. I give us maybe a 10-15% chance at best. And it's going to be incredibly hard to beat Georgia there. And then, of course, Oklahoma. That's probably the key game for Tennessee is Oklahoma on the road. If they can win that game, they should be able to run the table for the most part outside of Georgia. And the Alabama game is very critical. They need to win at the minimum 1 out of 3 of those games. And if they could somehow win 2, I think they'd be a lock to be in the playoff. But those are the teams that I think have the best opportunity to reach the 12-team deal. And again, there is a team that's going to get creaked because of a Liberty or somebody like Liberty. Just the way it is. All right, now we're going to get into the Sweet 16. Tonight, 7 o'clock, we got Clemson versus Arizona. Clemson's been a little bit of a Cinderella, and I'm going to be rooting for Clemson. It's nice to see them get into the Sweet 16. They're usually sort of an afterthought in the ACC, and they've been playing really well. Arizona's a tough team. Arizona will probably win this game, but I'm going to be rooting for Clemson. I'd like to see them make it in the Elite Eight. Alabama against UNC. I tell you what, Nate Oates has done a great job there. I can't take anything away from him. I don't think they can beat North Carolina. They're just too talented. And this Alabama team is not last year's team. They don't have the best player in the country. So I don't think they can get past UNC unless they just get incredibly hot from 3. I just don't like their chances in this game. Then later you've got UConn versus San Diego State. Nice season, San Diego State. You are not going to beat UConn. UConn is on a mission, and I just don't see it happening under any circumstances. I got UConn winning that pretty easily. Here's another fun game, Illinois versus Iowa State. Iowa State has been hot. This should be a very interesting game. I'm going to pick Iowa State here, but, you know, Illinois will have a shot. And then tomorrow night, we've got NC State against Marquette, and I guess if there is a Cinderella team, it's NC State. They're coming off an ACC tournament victory. They've been pretty hot. I don't think they'll get past Marquette, but it's not impossible. They are, I guess, the actual Cinderella. Then you've got Duke versus Houston. That is going to be tough. Houston is brutal. I don't think Duke can beat them. I'm going to have to go with Houston on this one. Duke's been kind of hot, but I don't see it happening. Then you've got Gonzaga versus Purdue. I've not seen anybody handle Purdue and that big guy in the middle. They're just a little too strong. Gonzaga's a quality team, but I just don't think they can beat Purdue. Then you've got the game that I think most people are really looking forward to as far as a great matchup, Creighton versus Tennessee. You're going to have a much more athletic, quick team in Tennessee, but Creighton is so solid, and they play as a team beautifully. They're great shooters. They're incredible from the free throw line. If it comes down to the end of the game and you got to hit your free throws, they're going to hit all theirs. And they play very smart. So what Tennessee's got to do is they got to move the ball quickly. They got to play tenacious defense, especially on the three-point line, because Creighton loves to fill it up from out there, and they're really good at it. And Tennessee's going to have to shoot well. They're not going to be able to dog it out the way they did with Texas. That 12% from the three-point line, if they do that, they're done. They got away with that with Texas. They will not with Creighton. Creighton's going to score points. You can just count on it. We're going to have to outscore them. Dalton Connect must have a good game. He needs to play really well and hit his threes, and he'll have opportunities. They don't have anybody that can necessarily stay with him the way Texas did. They don't have the athletes. So he should have open shots and be able to create his own shots, and so should Zeke Ziegler. I think Zeke will give them a lot of trouble. He's quicker than anybody they've got over there by far. He made Texas life miserable. Those Texas guards are still having nightmares about Ziegler. They're probably walking around their apartment looking around the edge, making sure Ziegler's not going to show up and take something from them. He terrorized them. And I want to see what Adu can do in there. He's quicker than anybody they got, so he should be able to have a pretty good game too. I'm looking forward to this game. It's going to be a heck of a matchup. And then whoever wins that's got to play Purdue, and that is going to be tough. So even if you win tomorrow night, you got a heck of a battle in front of you. So that's just a quick breakdown on the Sweet 16, kind of giving you my opinions on that. I think it's going to be a fun. I can't wait to watch these games tonight. And then tomorrow night, my Vols, oh boy, it's going to be at 10:15 at night too. It's going to be brutal. Anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's continue to cover all this college news. If you've not subscribed, hit this little button right here. It doesn't cost you one dime, and it helped me out. And right over here is the most recent video YouTube thinks you'll enjoy based on your viewing history. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.